Good evening, everybody. It's with tremendous pleasure that I welcome you to the CV Fest 2021, organized by the Leo Club of Rattanapitiya and Leo Club of SLIIT. Thank you for each and every one of you being here with us today via Zoom platform and through Facebook Live. And I'm glad to welcome you on behalf of the two organizing Leo clubs from the Leo districts 306A2 and the Leo district 306C1. Before I start to give an introduction on the session today, I would like to introduce our speaker for this evening. Mentioning about her, she is a proud all girl of Methodist College, Colombo, and she has completed her bachelor's in business management from University of Wales and also an associate member of Association of HR Professionals, Sri Lanka, currently working for Heineken Lanka Limited as the Senior Executive for HR Business Partnering and Talent Acquisition. Good evening, Ms. Natasha Peter, and I am so glad to have you here with us today for the CV Fest 2021. So, CV Fest 2021 is about how to make a professional CV to apply for a position in a company. Because as I know, most of the undergraduates and school leavers here with us today might have gone through rejections from the job application. And but here's the reason. I hope you will learn what to be included and what not, and all the information regarding CV making and LinkedIn basics and how to give the first impression to the interviewing panel on your first interview. So without further ado, Miss Natasha Peter, it's time for you to showcase what we are going to mention about. And in the meantime, if you have any questions to raise for Miss Natasha, please don't hesitate to type it into the chat box provided by the Zoom. So over to you, Miss Natasha.
Hi, Ashada. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that warm welcome and that lovely introduction. So Yashoda has done some background research on me, so that's thank you so much for taking the time to do that. So I know generally when I've been on the other side of the screen, so generally how this goes is, nobody switches on their camera and everybody comfortably sits probably in their pajamas because it's Saturday. And everybody's comfortably listening to the session at home. So don't worry, I won't force you to switch on your camera. Of course, if you are comfortable, feel free to do that because it will help me also to kind of see if you understand what I'm saying. So before we start, just a few questions because Yashoda and the team mentioned that we have people from different years in the university. So I just want to kind of understand where you guys are, so I know how much I should explain what I'm going to say. So I think there is a feature for you to raise your hand or react or something in Zoom. So if I can know out of everyone, I think we have about 80 participants. Can I know how many of you are currently working? Is there anybody who is currently working, doing an internship, anything like that? Do we have any raised hands? No? Okay, then I'm going to assume that everybody is studying and they're preparing to go into their first job. Can I know if anybody has, is anybody on LinkedIn? Okay, we have Sanduni who is on LinkedIn. Tisali is on LinkedIn. Okay, we have quite a few people who are on LinkedIn. Thank you, guys. And anybody who has not made a CV before, not made a CV. Okay, we have a few people. All right, okay. So then let's take it step by step. Let me go ahead and share my screen and I hope my technology doesn't fail me today. And if it does, Yashoda, please feel free to, stop me.
Sure.
Right, so I'll just minimize this. Yes, okay. So hi guys. Today basically what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at a path to a professional CV, right? So I will basically be talking to you guys a little bit about nailing that first impression before you step into an interview even. How do you kind of start nailing that first impression from the get-go, right? So we'll mainly be looking at CV writing, LinkedIn, and also towards the end, I'll take some questions regarding, interview etiquette, especially in the virtual world, what kind of etiquette and tips that you all can use based on my experience and what I've seen, right? To start off with, let's talk a little bit about what exactly this first impression is, and more importantly, why it's relevant to us, right? So you would have heard a lot of people talk about this whole first impression thing, and even sometimes we don't realize that we ourselves create first impressions. So what I want you guys to do is, I'm going to share a picture. So this is my friend Shehan, who is on the way to an interview. So what I want you guys to do is, if you're comfortable, you can unmute yourself.
Recording in progress.
Okay. If you are comfortable, you can unmute yourself. If not, you can use the chat function. And yeah, sure, there can maybe, shout out some of the words that people share. But basically, I want you to look at this picture and, type out or unmute yourself and tell me what are the words that come to your mind when you look at Shehan? Just off the top of your head, what are some of the words that run through your mind? We'll give about 30 seconds. Quickly start typing or talking. Anything, there's no right or wrong answer, right? This is basically your opinion. I see there are a few answers on the chat. Yeah, Shraddha, if you want to maybe share them, or can I?
Yes, from Natasha we have anxious, and from Rishna we have late, and from Kavinda we have not prepared, and from
Not prepared.
Vinod we have yes, from Vinod we have nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and
Okay.
also we have another coming late, and he was late for the interview. Kavinda Tenakon not organized.
Not organized. Okay. All right. So those are some really good words to actually describe this picture. I'm going to now introduce you to another friend of mine, right? So now I'm going to share a picture, I think. If mine, yes, okay. Now this is my friend Hiruni. So now when you look at Hiruni, what are some of the words that come to your mind? Now we're on Hiruni. We're done with Shehan. So shoot some of the words that come to mind. And I'd like someone to unmute themselves and maybe shout out a word if you're brave enough. Yashoda, you can share your word as well.
Yes, I feel like she's pleasant, and we have answers coming from Tisali, confident,
Confident.
and we have more.
Anything else? Anything you all think of when you all look at Hiruni? Again, no right or wrong answer.
Well prepared.
Prepared, okay.
And confident and happy moment. All right. And from
Okay.
Vinod, we have
Confident.
also well prepared. Well prepared.
All right. Okay, good. So we have quite a contrast, right? So when we look at Shehan, our mind directly goes to, oh, there's a clock on the wall. He's sweating while he's running. He's probably late and he looks disheveled. He's not dressed the part. You know, it looks like he's running to an interview, but he's not dressed properly. He's just wearing t-shirt and jeans. Whereas you have Hiruni, who is well kept. She looks like she's properly dressed. She looks like she's in a good mood and she's relaxed. But the thing is, guys, we actually don't know much about Shehan and Hiruni other than for their names, right? So now, yes, in Shehan's picture, there seems to be a door with interview, but we don't actually know if Shehan is attending the interview. We don't know if Shehan maybe even be an interviewer. This could be an IT company and he could be an interviewer. We don't know anything about him. And we don't know, maybe he's early. We don't know what time the interview is. We don't know. And he could also, maybe if he is late, it might not be because he's disorganized. It might be because, there was an accident or there could have been a number of reasons, right? Same with Hiruni. Hiruni could be really good at masking her emotions. Maybe Hiruni just got some bad news from work, based on her attire, we can assume she's a businesswoman. So maybe she got some bad news, but she doesn't want to show it. Hiruni could not really be prepared, but she's good at faking confidence. And so we all would kind of bank on Hiruni if they were both going to the same interview, right? So that is actually what a first impression is, right? So you and I, in our day-to-day lives, always do this thing of judging people, and it's not a bad thing, it's a normal human reaction, and it's actually a psychological instinct that we have. So when we were cave people, we had to judge if the person who was walking towards us was a threat to our life. Were they going to hunt us for dinner, or were they a friend? So we had to make the judgment. So that's there in our instincts, right? So basically, according to the American Psychological Association, a first impression is the initial perception you have of this person. So it could be positive, it could be negative, and it could be based on their physical appearance, or it could be based on their psychological characteristics. So, for example, with Shehan was running, he was sweating, he didn't look prepared. So we assumed he was probably late and he was messy. Whereas Hiruni, she looked very, organized, she looked well put together. And so we assumed that she is probably, in a good mood and she's very well organized and settled, right? So the thing is, when it comes to these impressions, it takes us less than a second to form these impressions. Our brain is really smart and it's really fast, and within a 1/10 of a second, it's already forming impressions about everyone. As soon as I got into this call, I'm sure you all formed an impression about me, and I formed an impression about you, right? And also based on mostly these things called biases. Biases is a completely different, interesting topic that you can read up on, but it's something that we as recruiters use in our lingo because we're all human. And what we basically do is we, based on our experiences, we form conclusions. So, for example, let's say you are, entering a new university and you are from Royal College, and in the orientation you meet another royalist. You might not know him, but you know he's from Royal, so you automatically assume you and him are going to gel together because both of you are royalists. Yeah. So that again is a bias. He might be a completely different person to you, but you don't know that. You form that bias. And these are oftentimes difficult to change. An impression can be created like this, but it takes a long time to change someone's mind after they make that judgment about you, right? Whether it's true or false. Um, so that is why it becomes very important for us that from the get go, we make a good first impression and we make a lasting impression. So today, what we're going to focus on is how are we going to create a good impression when we're applying for a job where this recruiter is probably seated at their laptops, going through 300s of CVs for this one opportunity. How are we going to make them pause at your CV and take the time and shortlist you, right? So that is what we're going into. So the first thing that they see when you apply for a job is your CV. And that is why it's very important that we make our CV attractive, right? It gives you a chance to show this person, this recruiter or the manager who's going through your CV, what you've got. So you're supposed to bring your best to the table when you're creating a CV, and you need to make it stand out, right? And so this is your first point of contact with this person, unless, of course, they headhunt you. But at an undergraduate level, it's rare. Generally, we're the ones applying. So in that case, it's your first point of contact. And this is where they create an impression about you. So that's why it's very important that we get it right from the get-go, right? So when it comes to creating a CV, actually the first step a lot of us would think is to go and find a template or get a senior CV, look at how they've done it and start writing our own thing. But that is not where you should start, especially if you want to start with the intention of creating a lasting impact, right? What you need to start and your first step, what it needs to be, is figuring out why you're applying to this job. So it starts with that. So you need to ask yourself a few very important questions, regardless of what you're applying to, whether it's a corporate job or a government job, or you're, applying to an organization like a, student body. First, ask yourself, what is the job I'm applying for? You know, is it something that's suitable to me? Am I putting my CV because I really want an internship experience? I need to cover my 3 or 6 months of university internship. Or do I really find this job interesting? Once you figure out what the job is and if you're interested in it, then you will know what they're looking for. So now you understand. So this is the job. It's an internship for a marketing intern. It's at a multinational company. Now you know a little bit. Then you think, do I want to join this company? So some of us could have certain reservations about joining certain industries, which is our call. It's our personal choice, and that is fine. So you have to stop and think, do I want to join this specific company? Sometimes, I'm sure business students know this, there are different cultures within organizations, right? You have some very traditional organizations, like the companies that have been with us for more than 50 years, that will have a little bit more of a traditional culture. And then you have companies that are a little bit more modern, a little less hierarchy, like especially a startup or an IT company, or let's say a graphic design agency. They have a completely different culture. So figure out, why are you interested in this company? Is it gelling with who I am as a person? Does it make sense to me? And think of your goals. Where do you want to get? I'm sure we haven't thought of, a common question in interviews is, what's your 5-year plan? And actually, the last 2 years has shown us that everybody who, in 2000, I don't know my maths, but somewhere in 2015, 16, whoever said what their 5-year plan was, clearly is not where they are because of COVID. So a lot of things can change. So that's a cliche to think about, but really think of yourself in terms of your values, in terms of your goals. Do you want to one day start your own company? If that is the case, you need to know how exactly to start a company. So what's the best to go? A large company that has a 50-year tenure, or a company that's 2 years old, where you can learn about starting a business? Which is the best option for you? So start thinking, what is your goal? Where do you want to go? And does this job help you get there? For example, sometimes we get students, and I've had people who've applied for internships in in the place where I work. And, they come to the interview and they say they want to get into research or academics, but they're joining a really fast-paced corporate. It might not gel. You might not find what you're looking for here. So be clear. Are you looking for, is this job going to help you achieve your goals? And when you do that, you will be able to set your intentions. So you will know, okay, this is the job. It's a marketing job. I know I'm going to apply for this because I'm interested in these aspects of the job. I've gone through the company. I'm interested in these parts, and I know their language now. I know how they speak. I know their culture. So then you can start mapping out your CV based on that information, right? I saw a raised hand. Do we have a question, or was that an accident? No questions? Okay.
Do we
If you all
have
have a
any
question,
questions? Yeah. Do we have
yes.
any questions?
If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself, guys, and ask me at any time. No problem at all. So now I'm assuming we don't have a question, so I'm going to move to the next slide. So now we're going to look at, what are some of the main aspects of a standard CV. So I just got this in CV online. So I'm just going to walk you through what are some of the main aspects we see in a CV. So if you guys would like to unmute yourself and maybe shout out some of the key areas you see in this CV, or that you think need to be included, key information that need to be included in a CV. Also, no judgment here. Nobody is judging you. It's okay if you don't know the answer, or there's no wrong answer. Actually, it's a good opportunity for us to learn. So even if you want to put it on the chat box, that is fine. Okay, I'm going to pull up Yashodhya here. And since Yashodhya, you're hosting, why don't you start us off? Tell us something that you think belongs in a CV.
So what I feel like missing here would be a reference.
A referral. Okay, yeah, very good. Anyone else? There are some low-hanging fruits that you all can go for. You can even pick stuff off the CV on screen. I think Menuri raised her hand.
Yes, can we have your answer?
Quickly, quickly. Come, guys.
Personal statement from Pisavi.
Sorry, what was that?
Personal statement from Pisavi.
Personal statement, like an introduction. Okay, very good.
Yes.
Anything else? I thought Leo Club guys were a little bit more forward. No? No other answers?
I feel like hobbies doesn't belong in the CV from Sharon.
Okay. Hobbies. All right. That's actually an interesting one. We'll get to that.
Mm.
Anything else? All right. So in the interest of time, I'll just move on. So I put down, if you know anything, just feel free to, unmute and speak. But I'll just share some of the things that I think definitely belong in a CV, right? Based on my experience. And one, very easy, is definitely your name and a photograph, right? So I know a picture is a controversial topic. Some feel it's not necessary, some feel it is. But I personally think adding a picture to a CV is a good call because again, you're making that personal connection with the person looking at your CV. I'm more likely to remember someone's CV based on their photograph and their name than I am to remember a blank CV, right? So that's just my, my experience. Also, contact information is very, very important in a CV, and we'll talk about that in detail a little bit more. And mentioning your skills, competencies, especially as undergraduates, sometimes maybe we don't have as many certifications, we don't have as many career experience. So then adding your skills that you have learned through your university experiences, through your projects, adding those in will add value to your CV, right? Something else we see is an introduction or a summary. This was mentioned as well. Basically, to give them a quick idea as to who you are in 2 or 3 lines. And, if you have any sort of work experience, professional experience, you can add that in. If you have academic or professional qualification, we generally see that in a CV. And we also see people mentioning, any sort of certifications that they have and special achievements, extracurriculars, all sorts of things, volunteer experience, and also your non-related referees, right? So now it's a trend actually that some choose not to add their referees into a CV and they say upon request they will give a referee. You can do that if you want to, it's personal choice. I personally think it's a little bit more forward to add them in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the latter part of your of this presentation, right? About referees. So these are some of the components that we generally see in a common CV. So now these components in some variation you will find in every CV, right? Every CV is going to have a name, they're going to talk about their degree. If everyone from SLIIT is applying to the same job, everyone will say that, they're from SLIIT. Chamodi, I saw your hand raised. Do you have a question? No? Okay. So how do you then make yourself stand out, right, from all of these CVs? And I've put down a few hacks that you can kind of pay attention to. The first one that I personally think is one of the most important is to Marie Kondo your CV, right? So for those of you who don't know Marie Kondo, she is a serial organizer. She has her own Marie Kondo way of organizing things and she's famous for it, and there's quite a lot of documentaries. Even Netflix has a show about her, and it's very interesting if you're into organizing. So the first and most important thing when creating your CV is to be organized, right? So we have enough and more CV templates that you can find online. A platform that I personally love using is Canva. For those of you who don't know Canva, it's almost like a design sort of platform which is free of charge. Anyone can go and use it, and they have hundreds, if not thousands, of templates that are very easy. You just edit it, you add in your information, and you can download a PDF then and there. So there's enough and more really good sort of templates that you can follow. And I think it's very important that you follow a sort of flow, and you create a flow that makes it easy for your interviewer to read your CV, right? What I mean by this is, sometimes so we did our homework, we did before we applied to the job, we did our homework to understand what exactly needs to be added into a CV, or actually why exactly am I applying to this job. So we did that homework and we understood what the job was. So now we know in this company, this person is looking for people with these experiences or these skills. So if we know that, we will then change our CV around to put that on top, to put the most relevant thing right on top, clear for them to see, right? Sometimes what we do, and sometimes what I've seen, is CVs I get have chunks and chunks of information that are not relevant in the top, and you have to scroll through them for years. So you'll have 3 to 4 pages of people explaining their O-level results, A-level results, and this job is not asking for any of those things. So you need to first understand what are they looking for. Are they looking for someone who has very specific engineering experience in mechatronics? And if you have done a mechatronics course, put that right on top where it's clear. If they are looking for someone, let's say you're applying for instead of a day-to-day job, you're applying for a leadership program, and you know that they are very keen on people, having certain qualities in this company, then put those in. Show them, in your skills, in your experiences, put volunteer experiences, put experiences of when you were in clubs that show that leadership skill of yours, where you can talk about it when you get to an interview. So that's how you grab their attention, right? And also, it's very important to look at what are the values of the company. So if this is a company that's innovative, it's a company that's purpose driven, maybe that's something you can put into your description. Use their language, use the words they use, and try and align yourself to theirs. Of course, remain true to yourself. And if you don't gel with that culture, then I would recommend you don't apply for the place. But if you feel that you are in line with that, show them that in your CV. So this is where we come to the introduction part. You need to make an introduction that's authentic to you. So you're not lying, you're not saying you're something else, but also it's interesting and you're speaking their language. So something that I have done in my CV is I have put in my purpose statement. So I've understood what is my purpose for life, where do I want to go, and I've added that into my CV introduction. So in a lot of interviews that I have gone to in the past, they always ask me about it. Or, I've had people say, your purpose statement grabbed my attention. Can you explain a little bit about that? It doesn't have to be purpose. For me, purpose is important, so I put it because it's true to who I am. And it's something interesting that they won't see in the other CVs that they get. Find out what is that thing about you that makes you stand out, and also speak their language in your introduction. Something else that really helps you stick in someone's mind is your picture, right? Of course, this could be positive and negative. I have gotten CVs where you get people posting very ridiculous pictures. But here, what we're doing is we're focusing on someone who has a really nice, welcoming picture, a professional photograph, high resolution, high quality image, where they're smiling, they have open body posture, and they're welcoming. That creates a sort of connect with the interviewer. What I mean by open body posture is sometimes, of course, depending on the leadership level, sometimes you're applying for very high positions, you want someone to look assertive, so they cross their arms in their photographs. You would have seen a lot of directors or senior managers in their photographs, they have that stance because they want to show authority, they want to show leadership. In others, you have people who are not crossing their arms, they're smiling, they're making eye contact with the camera, and their body posture is open and welcoming you to have a conversation with them. So it's very important that you have a very pleasant, memorable picture, but a professional picture. So ladies, especially in a photograph, you want someone to take you seriously as a professional, right? And also, gentlemen, with your hairstyles, let's not get crazy. Let's keep it professional, because at the end of the day, this company is looking to see if you're someone that they can rely on, give work to. So they don't want to see someone, who has like a crazy, hairstyle and things like that. Just remain professional. Of course, out of business hours, you can do whatever you want. It's your body, your choice. But if you, and also it depends on the company you are applying to once again and their culture. Some don't really care about it. Some traditional companies care about it. So do your research and see if they care about it, and then speak their language again. So this is what I mean about this takes me to my next point of doing your research, and I touched upon this in the beginning when we were setting our intentions, and that it's very important that when you go through an advertisement, so you would have seen on Top Jobs, on LinkedIn, you get people advertising for jobs, and they tell you exactly. Some people don't, some do. They say, we're looking for an energetic undergraduate who is creative, who has a challenger mindset. They use these words, and those words are not just put there to make the advertisement sound nice. It's put there because those are values that they are looking for. For example, people who are looking for a corporate communications intern would want someone who's creative, because that person needs to write and do PR and do creative problem solving. So they need someone who's creative. There might be some roles where they're looking for a data analytical intern, where they say that, analytical thinking skills are important. So go through that job description, see what are the keywords they have used, what are the qualifications they're looking for, what are the skills they're looking for. For example, if you're applying for a sales job, they might require you to have a driver's license. If so, put that in your CV. Under skills or competencies, you can say holds a valid driving license, because they're looking for that, and that will make them shortlist your CV a little faster. Yeah, so always do your research and make sure you're changing your CV to match the job. This also ensures. Sorry, do we have a question? Yashika, do we have a question?
Yes. I actually, yes. Do we have any question?
I think not.
No, it's not. Yes.
Okay. What was I saying? Yes. So what I was saying was, you need to make sure you highlight those things and do your research when you're applying for a job, right? And also, this is your opportunity to kind of do a little bit of a humble brag. So don't withhold anything from your CV. Of course, don't word vomit onto your CV and put that you won a grade 4 dance competition on your CV. Don't do that. You are adults, we have discretion, but show off skills that you have had. So, for example, if you're putting in an experience that you have had, make sure that you also add in how that helped you. For example, that comment about how hobbies don't belong in a CV. That might not always be true. Sometimes it could be based on the company. For example, if you're applying to a company like Google, I'm just taking a very vague example of Google. They look for people who are dynamic people, who are excited. They have a slide inside their office. They're looking for someone who's energetic, who has a childlike sense of wonder. So in such a case, showing off those hobbies, showing off what else you're bringing into the table could be useful, because you learn skills from your hobbies, right? For example, somebody who is really good at gardening is probably someone who's very patient, because it takes time to garden. So you can show off those things. And also, when you're talking in the interview, make sure instead of listing down your hobbies, list down what you have learned through those hobbies. If you're someone who loves traveling, and they ask you about it at the interview. So I see you've mentioned traveling. Where do you travel to? You can talk about, your adventures. You can talk about why you enjoy traveling. You can talk about your experience and your learnings with it. That makes you a little bit more of an interesting candidate to listen to. Yeah. And also, very, very important, once you're done with your CV, that you proofread your document. Nothing shows them that you care less about the job than if you read the introduction and there are 20 odd spelling mistakes in that. Of course, there are language barriers, and that is why it's very important that if your language skills are not optimal, that you get a second pair of eyes. Talk to a trusted friend. If you have a parent who you can ask help from, a lecturer who you trust, somebody that you can reach out to and say, do you mind just taking 2 minutes to skim through my CV and point out any mistakes? And then if it's also someone, for example, a senior in university who has been through the mill, has applied for a job, they might tell you, Mali or Nangi, maybe change this a little bit. මෙහෙම දාන්න එපා, මේක පොඩ්ඩක් උඩට ගේන්න, may experience එක extra relevant නෑ. Somebody can give you that feedback, and that feedback is very important. So even to date, if I were to apply for another job, I would still send it to someone I trust, because I will realign my CV and I will enhance it, and I will send it to someone I trust to read it before I send it out. Yeah, so that is very important. Some things that we can avoid when we are making a CV. One is we need to stop with this whole self-rating thing. I know some templates you find online have this option, like here, these circles where you can rate yourself, or these bars where you rate your skills. I would advise against it, because there is no uniform way of measuring it, right? And sometimes it comes across as you not knowing exactly how to put yourself across. And I have sat in for interviews where the interview panel, the interviewer, if he's particularly cheeky, would say, so tell me why you gave yourself 80% for communication skills. What makes you think you're at 80% and not 81%? So then you get stumped at the interview. So you don't want to be the brunt of the joke. So don't do that. I'd say keep it clean, keep it professional, and avoid too much of baba boom, right? So avoid too much of colors, images, especially, if it's too busy, if there's too much happening. So your CV is not the place to show off your graphic designing skills, unless, of course, you're applying for a graphic designer job and you're sending in a portfolio. But if you're sending a CV, make it a very professional template. Don't do multicolored jargon like this. You can use color. I'm not saying make it black and white. You can use color, but use something that's mild, that's calming, and use one color across that you can use as an accent color to make things stand out, right? So actually in Google, and I'm sure business students know this, and psych students know this, different colors bring out different emotions. So find what these colors mean and find out what's the message you want to give, and use one or two colors that can highlight who you are, right? Also, you don't have to use too many icons or logos in your CV. So some put their school crest, some put, from the clubs that they're in, they put their logos. And I've seen even people with 20 years of experience, they put their company's logo against their experience. And the rationale is that, it will make your CV more clear. But reality is it shouldn't be clustered in the first place. Without any logos, when I take a look at your CV, I should be able to very easily read through and identify what is your university, what are your experiences, what are your skills. Yeah. So don't use unnecessary icons or logos. And coming back to this whole photograph, please don't resort to wedding selfies, ladies and gentlemen. I know sometimes some of us don't really take too many pictures of us ourselves, and we might not have professional studio level photographs of ourselves, and that's okay. You don't have to have it. My first photograph in my first CV that I sent out was taken against a blank wall in my garden, and my mother took it on her little Nokia phone, and we added it into the CV. But it was a professional photograph because I was dressed professionally. So don't need to resort to, photographs where you're cropping yourselves out of group pictures, where it's blurry, you're, God forbid, you're in the middle of a wedding, you're dressed up, hair all done with flowers and makeup, or, you're in a suit and tie that's meant for a wedding and not a company. So make sure that you're keeping it professional. And also avoid chunky paragraphs. your CV is not a cover letter, right? Those are two different documents, and you don't want to be writing essays in your CV. Bullet points are your friend, and bullet points keep things organized and easy when you're reading to read through. So the human eye, when we read, goes from left to right. And that is why you will find in most documents, presentations, even journal articles, the alignment needs to be always left alignment because your eye goes from left to right. And especially for if now in this world where we're talking a lot about being diversity and inclusive, being diverse and inclusive, it's very important to understand that people with disabilities, maybe somebody with autism or some sort of a learning disability, they also read from left to right. And the auto reader function that you have on laptops that maybe someone who's blind uses reads from left to right. They can't read center alignment. So when you're making your CV, be mindful of that. Make it professional, avoid chunky paragraphs, keep things brief. At most, if you want to describe something, I would recommend 2 to 3 lines, not more than that at all. And also your contact details, guys, are very important. I have had CVs come to me that give me numbers. When I call, they're either out of order or it's discontinued. Some CVs don't even have phone numbers or even an email address that you can contact someone with. So it's very important that you add that in. Of course, you don't need to add your residential address and your NIC number. You don't have to add all those personal details, but it's very important that there is a way for this person, if they shortlist you, to reach you. So add your contact number. Make sure this is a contact number that's yours. And if you don't have personal contact number and you're applying to a job, if you're giving your parents' number, inform them. Tell them that you have applied for a company to expect a call. Because sometimes that happens. You call someone and it's their parent. And now you sit and explain to the parent who you are, why you're calling this person, and then they don't know what the company is. Maybe there's a language barrier and it's a hassle, right? Of course, there are some recruiters who wouldn't mind, who would be empathetic and understanding. There are some who might not. There are some who are like, "Meka hariyanne," and they just hang up because they don't have the time or the patience for it. So you don't want to be at a disadvantage and hope that the recruiter is a nice person. So always make sure that the number is right. And if you're given a number, make sure that if it's your phone number, you don't just randomly switch off your phone. If you're going into like an exam or something, that's fine. But if you get a missed call them back. Don't wait for the recruiter. Some don't call you back. They'll call you once. If you miss the call, you're done. You miss the bus. So always, if you get a missed call and you're waiting to hear from a company, call the number. It's okay if it's a stranger, you can block them later, but it might be a company, so it's worth a risk, right? So that's a little bit about CV writing. I think we have about 15 minutes for me to run through LinkedIn, but I feel like this is a good time to just pause and maybe ask if you all have any questions up until now. I see a few messages on the chat, so I'm wondering if you've got any questions.
Yes, we have a question from Dinesha.
Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah, the question is, are they give their priority for the experience or the skills I recommend for them about me?
Right. So, sorry, for me to just be clear, she's asking if it's the experience or the skills that's more important.
Yes.
Okay, all
Yes.
right. So again, this is where your research about the company comes in, right? And some of us, especially if we are first year, second years undergraduates, we might not have that much experience. And that's okay, especially if you're applying for an internship. The recruiter is not expecting for someone to have 2 years experience, right? They know this is your first job. And it's okay if you don't have any experience, that's fine. But experience here that you can add in is maybe leadership experience. You were part of a committee that organized a fashion show, or you were part of the Leo Club committee, or you were part of you were the captain of the rugby team. Those are leadership experiences. So instead of calling it experiences and making it ambiguous, you can turn that topic into leadership experience and put your leadership experience down if you don't have professional or work experience, right? So in that case, you can add it like that. So comparing experience versus skills, again, it comes down to the company. So if this is a role where they're looking for someone with skills in terms of designing or creative writing, things like that, they will look at those skills. They will look at whether you have supporting experience. You might not have supporting experience for some of these things. In that case, you're relying on the skills to showcase that you have done it. And also, if you have done any courses, there are enough and more resources, and we'll get to that. LinkedIn is a really good resource. If you have done those things, you can add those skills that you have learned from those courses and those workshops. That will help you. If you know you're going into a job that needs a lot of Excel and you have done a lot of Excel work and you've done Excel workshops, add that in. So you can't really, I would say you can't really compare. I think both are equally important. Of course, depending on the job, sometimes the experience might be a little bit more important than the skills. But I would say don't neglect the skills unless you feel like your seat is getting too cramped up, then feel free to leave it out. But sometimes listing down those skills are important. But when you're putting your skills, make sure you're not being generic, right? Sometimes, things that we put down are, team player, leadership skills, communication skills. We'll just put down. You can just Google what are the top 5 skills companies look for in 2021. They will get you a list and you can just copy paste it. But one thing that a lot of people get stuck in is when you come to the interview stage, a question that we generally ask candidates who put down skills are, can you give me an example of when you have used this skill? Or how did you improve this skill? Let's say leadership. Give me an example of a time when you had to, lead a team, overcome a challenge, and people get stuck. Sometimes they don't have an answer or they have a very vague answer. But the thing is, we might be looking for those skills. For example, in Heineken, we were recruiting a procurement intern a few weeks back, and a skill we were looking for is someone who had a lot of stakeholder management skills. So someone who's good with people, who can manage people, talk, convince, that sort of thing. And we had guys who had put that down. And when we asked them, they didn't really have any experience. They just said that, yeah, I have this skill, I've used it, very vague, very, didn't give me any proper answer. So in that case, make sure you're prepared to give a proper example of why you use this skill. Same goes for your experiences. They can ask, through your experience in the Leo Club, what did you gain? What new can you bring to the table through this experience? Why did you want to join this place? Have answers for these things if you're putting it down on your CV. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions, Yashodhya, or shall we move on?
Yes, I got another section. Hold on. Yes, I have another question. Is it compulsory to have a LinkedIn account to apply for an internship? So hold on, we are coming into that topic.
Right. Okay. Yes. So we'll get to that point actually. Actually, let me start off with that. So LinkedIn is actually the world's largest professional network, right? So we have a lot of social media out there. You have from your, Instagram, TikTok to Twitter to anything. LinkedIn is not like social media. It's the only professional network out there for people to predominantly network, right? So having a LinkedIn account, you go into it either to find a job. So you're either creating an account because you're looking for a job, or you're someone who's an undergraduate who wants to build a network so that finally when you're in the workforce, it will be easy for you to find a job, or you're someone who's looking to learn. And LinkedIn is a good platform through LinkedIn Learning for you to do that, right? So as an undergraduate, it's not mandatory to have a LinkedIn account. So when I started my career, I didn't have a LinkedIn account, to be frank. I only created a LinkedIn because the job required it. In my application, they asked me for my LinkedIn link. So I quickly went and created a LinkedIn account, added a few people, lecturers that I knew. It wasn't really good. I hadn't thought about it before that, and I just sent it in with the application. But once I got into my job, I learned the importance of having a LinkedIn and how you create that LinkedIn. So I would recommend, especially with this competitive environment that you're going into, right? Now, right after a pandemic, we have a lot of people who are waiting graduation. We have a lot of people who have graduated and who don't have jobs. So the market is full of people looking for jobs, right? And you're going into it in an unfair footing because you're not only competing with people in your batch who are graduating, you're also maybe competing with people who are 1 or 2 years senior to you, who are also now applying for the same internships that you are applying for. So in that case, something that can help you is to have a good network, to have a good connection, so that you can again make yourself stand out from the crowd. And that is why I personally would recommend for people to create a LinkedIn. Of course, you don't have to have thousands of connections. You're just starting off, but it's a good place to kind of get into early so that you can slowly learn, right? So I hope that answers your question. Um, and now that we've kind of established that it's a good idea to start LinkedIn, how do we get started, right? The first step is to create your LinkedIn profile. So if you go and download the LinkedIn app and you started, creating your profile, most of us would use a mobile app, I think, rather than a desktop. So something that you will see first of all when you go to someone's profile is their picture, their name, their designation, and a background cover image, similar to Facebook. But here the difference is you're not going to be putting a selfie of yourself, on Kitulgala from your hike. You're not going to put a cover photograph of your holy festival. You're going to put a very professional picture, and you're going to use a cover image that describes you. So maybe it's a picture of your Leo committee. Maybe it's a picture of your rugby team. Maybe it's a picture that communicates your interests. If you're a designer, maybe it's a very creative poster that you have designed. It could be something like that to give them a little flavor of you. So always change. There's a default image in LinkedIn. Make sure you change. Don't stick to the default, right? Because it shows that you know your stuff. And then it comes down to your designation. So your designation actually comes through the experience you put in. So we'll get into that later. But the next thing when you scroll down, you see is an introduction. So there is an about section where you put your introduction. So here, something that you can really do is if you have a really good introduction in your CV, you can take that. I'm not saying copy paste, but you can use that as a guide for your LinkedIn introduction. So maybe, for example, my LinkedIn talks about my purpose in my introduction. So that is something that is common in my CV and in my LinkedIn. And if somebody is looking for someone to hire on LinkedIn, they will see that and they will get interested. My LinkedIn serves as my CV when people are headhunting. So for those of you who are not familiar to the concept of headhunting, sometimes companies don't always advertise vacancies online. They might use their recruiters or they might use an external headhunter to go on platforms like LinkedIn and find people through their recruiter profiles. So then to make yourself stand out, having that about is very important. Also add in your education. So you can say I'm an undergraduate of the university of the Sri Lanka Institute of Information and Technology, and you can put reading for a degree in this. And then you can put your hobbies or your interest in there, and I enjoy solving puzzles, I enjoy challenges, I enjoy designing, put a little bit of that. So I'd say have about 3 paragraphs. First paragraph, opening statement that describes you. Second paragraph, maybe your experience. So it could be your university or work experience, industry experience. If you worked in like a IT industry or a dairy industry, put that in. Last paragraph could be just a line to kind of describe your interests and your passions, right? And then you have to include all your leadership experience. If you don't have corporate experience, that's okay. Add leadership experience. If you don't have leadership experience, that's perfectly fine. Put your university, put your education, and say that you are an undergrad. So your bio will show that you are an undergrad, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? And if you have any volunteer experience, definitely put that in. And if you haven't volunteered, I think this is a good time, guys, for you all to get started. Start volunteering in things, start putting your hands up, saying yes to experiences, join clubs if you can, so that you will have things to put into your CV that will make you kind of stand out. So look for things that you are interested in and go and participate now, especially since we are all at home and we have that extra time to do that. So once you've created your CV, next step is to start building your network. right? Your network should include only ideally people that you either know or know of, right? So don't, as soon as you start your LinkedIn, go to that option where you can find people and start adding every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's in there. Don't do that because people are not going to accept you. And actually, LinkedIn for free profile, there is a limit on the number of connections. So if you keep doing that, they will stop you for the month to add any connections. And then if you have something important or someone important you want to add, you might not be able to. So don't add random people. And if you are adding someone, an industry expert, somebody who has come and, guest lectured, or someone you know of who you really admire, if you're sending them a connection invite, send it with a little message, message them when you're sending that. It's called in mail. So just send them a message saying, hi, I'm hi, so and so. My name is XYZ. I'm an undergraduate of this university. I am interested in the sort of work that you are doing, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about it. So, for example, if it's someone who's, for example, if you're an analytics undergraduate and you find people who are, experts and you want to see what they're up to, what are the new trends, send them a message saying, I'm interested in this project you are working on. I'm interested in this area and I'd like to learn a little bit more. And therefore, I'd like to connect with you. A small message, or if it's a lecturer that you don't know knows you, send them a message. I'm a student at this school, blah, blah, but use very professional language when you're sending it. So only if you know the person, definitely go ahead and connect with them. If you don't know them or it's someone senior, it could be an industry expert, send that message because it makes you sound professional and it makes you sound a little bit more advanced, right? And also you can, once you've added these people, something that you really need to do is in LinkedIn, you have the option to add your individual skills. Don't underestimate any skill here. Even things like creating a PowerPoint is a valuable skill when you come into a corporate where you will be making about 10 to 20 PowerPoints in a month. That happens sometimes. And you will be doing presentations to directors, you will be doing monthly reviews. It's important. It's an important skill. So don't underestimate your skills. Put them in, and you can reach out to your network to people you know. Don't reach out to people you don't know, please. Reach out to people you know who can vouch for you. And it's good if there's somebody who is an industry expert, or if it's somebody who is a little senior, who has a good connection and a good network who can vouch on your behalf, and get that person to endorse your skill. You can send them a request on LinkedIn. Yeah. And another thing that you can really request to build your network is to request for a recommendation. So recommendations are similar to the calls that your referees, answer and give a recommendation when a recruiter calls. But here it's public. Basically, they can go on LinkedIn and type in a recommendation. So you have to send them a request and ask them to give you a recommendation. And if there is something specific you're looking for example, if you're reaching out to somebody who is an expert in the engineering field and you would like them to endorse you for your engineering skills, or some sort of specified skills, you'll say, I would appreciate it if you can maybe touch on these things if you feel it's relevant. Very polite, use very polite language. Always be humble when you're approaching someone who's a little senior, and be professional in the language you use. But if you know them, you have a relationship with them, and you have that sort of connection, feel free to reach out to them and ask them for a recommendation. Please avoid asking strangers for recommendations because they might end up blocking you, and try not to bombard people. Remember, this is a professional platform, so keep it professional. Yeah. And the last step is to stay active. Don't create a LinkedIn profile and then neglect it. That's why I think having that app on your phone is useful, because even if you're not going to go on your desktop and you're going to check it, at least in the app, you might check it for 5 minutes as soon as you wake up. Just check if there's any updates, like a few things, and then you're remaining connected, right? So engage with your network, but again, keep it professional. So don't go and comment on random people's photographs and job updates, or don't do things like that. If you know them, by all means, congratulate them if you have a relationship with them. If someone shares an article that you find interesting, feel free to reshare it, no problem. You can like on like picture, you can comment on it if you know the person, but always keep that engagement professional, right? I've had colleagues come to me and tell me that there have been people who reach out to them, add them on the network, and then ask them out on a date. So don't do things like that because you will get blocked. So keep it professional because that person, like my colleague came and told me, that person will go and tell their network, and then it will be your name that's kind of plastered all over. So make sure that you don't do that because you don't want your future boss to hear from somebody that you ask someone out on LinkedIn. And also, if you have any relevant updates that you want to post, feel free to do that. If you find a new job or if you complete a course, if you graduate, you can by all means publish it, but make sure that that information is relevant. For example, if you are not a fitness instructor or a fitness lifestyle instructor, don't go and post a picture of your workout unless you're tagging a company or something like that and you were asked to do it, or it helps with the employer branding of the company or of yourself. Don't post things like that because it's not Facebook, it's LinkedIn. And I'm sure we all saw that meme of what you post on Facebook versus Instagram versus LinkedIn. So remember that meme as a guideline. That actually made a lot of sense. So keep that meme as a guideline when it comes to posting, right? And follow professional etiquette. Use professional language. Always sound humble. If it's an accomplishment you're talking about, use humble language. They're honored to have been part of this. And thank people who have impacted and contributed to that. If you're hosting an event and you have if you have a team that worked on that event with you, by all means tag them and thank them. If you had a guest speaker come in, you want to post a picture tagging them, thank them so that they might repost onto their network and your network then gets enriched. That's how social media works, right? Also, when it comes to learning resources, LinkedIn is a very, very useful platform. Of course, the LinkedIn Learning is a premium account. I think for a month you have to pay about 6,000 rupees. Now with the exchange rate, it might be a little more. But if you can commit and if you can invest that amount in yourself, go ahead and invest, especially if you're someone who's learning and needs to stay updated on those skills. Definitely go ahead and invest in that because those certifications you can put into your CV and you can use those as valid certifications, the LinkedIn Learning certifications. Outside of that, you also get certain articles. So you get like the Harvard Business Review, which is a very good platform, a very good page for you to follow. They post some very interesting articles, so you can definitely follow that. Follow some of the interesting characters out there, Bill Gates, Obama, who might post interesting things that you can then repost or share or even learn from. Yeah. And outside of LinkedIn, of course, you have enough and more resources for courses. So like Google Digital Garage, and you have Azure. So you have all these platforms, Udemy, that you can do courses. And once you do it, always post it on your LinkedIn. Put that as a license or a certification because it enriches your profile and makes you stand out, right? So that is a little bit about LinkedIn and CV writing. So that is just my 2 cents. Of course, there's enough and more resources. Even if you get started on LinkedIn, I found there is a course on how to level up your LinkedIn profile that you can start from day one, and it's a free course. Just Google once you're done with this session, take your tea break and then Google, how do I create a impactful LinkedIn? Go on YouTube. There are enough and more workshops and courses that you can follow to kind of help you build a good LinkedIn. So use those resources that are freely available to you, right? But it's always important to remember that a CV or a LinkedIn profile can only get you through the door, right? Landing the job doesn't depend on this. When it comes to landing the job, you need to prepare for the interview stage, right? And that is a completely different ball game, but same rules apply. Keep it professional, prepare yourself, do your research. Very important, guys. If you're going for an interview, do your research. Find out What are these companies' value? How long have they been in Sri Lanka? Are they an international company? How many employees do they have? If they're, what are their brands? Do they have international brands? Do they have local brands? Find out, because they might ask you, especially as an undergrad going into an interview, they might ask you, what do you know about our company? Tell us. So do your research, and also research your interview panel. Feel free when someone calls you for an interview. It's perfectly okay to ask them, may I know who my interview panel is? Be polite, but you can ask them. And then you can quickly go on LinkedIn and do a little bit of search, find this person, see what common ground you have, see what are their values, see what are their interests, so that again you can speak their language. So do your research and be clear, especially now when we're meeting for interviews, virtually. Make sure that you have a stable internet connection that you can use. If you feel that your internet connection is not stable, you can use a hotspot, or if not, move to a neighbor's house if you can. Of course, with COVID, don't do that. Stay at home. And most people understand. But if you can, go to a place where there is a better connection. You can ask people at home not to use the network while you're using. And you can always do a trial. Depending on your recruiter, some might say, okay, let's do a trial 5 minutes before you log in. Let's see if everything works. If not, log in early. It's very important when you're attending an interview. The same way in person, when you're attending, you come a little early, because if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, then you have time to calm down, to relax, use the washroom, take a breather, look around, become comfortable. Do the same when you get into an interview. Log in maybe 10 minutes before, because you don't know what will happen to your network. And you can face your interview, be confident, be authentic, make eye contact, look directly into the camera, and speak clearly. And don't rush through. Speak slow, use a calm tone, and you should be able to nail it. So yeah, that is a little bit from me. I will stop here. I know I've gone over time, and I'm really sorry about it. I've taken 10 extra minutes. But if we have any questions, I would love to take any questions you all have, and kind of have a discussion. And I would like it if you guys, now that we've kind of, or at least I've spoken for about an hour, if you guys can, give my vocal cords a break and maybe unmute yourself and speak, that would be great as well. So if you all have any questions, go ahead.
Yes. Do we have any questions? And also, Thinuri asked me to remind that there's an attendance sheet going on, and feel free to fill it also to mark your attendance for the event. And if there's any questions, we are looking forward to answer those by now.
I saw a few messages on the chat box. I'm not sure if those are questions or are they
Most
the
of
survey?
those are attended. Yes.
Oh,
the
okay,
attendance.
okay. Any other questions, guys? Anything I can clarify for you? No questions? So that either means that I was 100% clear, or you completely understood nothing I said.
To be honest, I was okay with everything that you mentioned, and everything was clear for me. So, do we have any question?
Okay, so if we don't have any questions, that's perfectly fine. You guys can always, Yashoda, you have my email address, so you can always pass it on to the guys if they want to ask me any of the questions. And if you guys want to refer to the PowerPoint, feel free. I've sent the PDF to the team, so you guys can ask that for them and always refer to it. And if you...
Yes, Natasha, we have a question.
okay, go ahead.
Can you suggest any platform to make our CV?
A platform. Yes. So definitely Canva is a very useful platform. Canva. Canva. It's a free platform. You can go and create a free profile for yourself, and they have ready-made templates that you just have to edit and put your information into, and you can download a PDF. So I personally use Canva, and that's the platform that I recommend because it's very clear. And generally their layouts are very clear and easy to kind of manipulate and change around. Or if not, you can always look on Google. You have Google Images. I personally wouldn't recommend them because they are a little bit outdated. Canva is the platform that I generally go to. Yeah, So that's what I'd recommend.
Yes.
Anything
Okay.
else?
So do we have any questions?
Seems like not, no?
Yes.
All right. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Yashadya and the team, for giving me this chance to kind of pass on my learnings to you all. And I wish all of you the very best as you, go out of this pandemic and start looking for jobs and your career. One piece of advice that I would like to leave is be intentional. Don't just take any opportunity just for the sake. Always align yourself to your goals and be intentional about what you want, and do your best and prepare, and be methodical, and I'm sure you all will nail it. If you guys have any questions, you all want to reach me directly, I'm on LinkedIn, so you all can connect with me. I'll be happy to talk to you. And also, if you are looking for any sort of career opportunities, I generally post whatever vacancies I come across on my LinkedIn, so you can have a look at that if you are looking for any opportunities. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can either email me or refer to this PowerPoint that Yashodhya will hopefully pass on. So
Yes.
I will stop sharing my screen. So thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Natasha, for the knowledge that you have imparted on us. And even with the question Q&A session, I hope that everyone understood everything clearly. So that's why we were not getting much questions to answer. And I hope that's the only questions we have for the session. And thank you so much again, Miss Natasha. We hope Miss Natasha covered up almost everything we would look forward in making a series. And so wishing you all good luck in your future. And it's over to you, Leon Nugusha, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Leo Yashodhya. Good evening. I'm Nudhu Jamapa, Active Director of Leadership Development of Leo Club of SLIIT. Thank you, Ms. Natasha Peter, for your valuable time. I think when I say this, I speak for all of us. We were able to get a clear understanding of what to and what not to include in a CV and what is expected in a CV by a company. Thank you again, madam, for your effort and your valuable time. We wish you good luck in your future endeavors. Next, I'd like to thank the organizing committee of this event, including the president of Leo Club of SLIIT, Leo Thiran, and the president of Leo Club of Rattanapitiya, Leo Tinuri. Thank you for your contribution in making this event a success. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who took time out of their busy schedule to participate in this event. With that, this concludes the today's session, CB Fest. To commemorate this event, let's take a picture. Leo Yashodhya, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nidusha, and the two hosting clubs, Leo Club of Rattanapitiya and Leo Club of SLIIT. I have a small request to make from you all to turn on the videos to get a picture. And if it's possible, we can have a picture by now.
Yashodhya, right before you move to the sorry to interrupt you guys, but I just saw a question on the comments about adding your social media profiles, I'm assuming, in your context. It's recommended not to keep a barrier between your personal life and your professional life. Just wanted to address that question because I missed it. But please go ahead.
We hope, yes, we hope you answered your question. And let's get into the picture. So you can turn on your videos if you are at a possible state of doing. And Nidusha, can we have the screenshots? Yes, I hope we covered almost everything. And thank you so much again, Ms. Natasha Peter, for being with us today. And thank you so much for the knowledge that you have imparted on us. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, guys. Take care. Stay safe, everyone, and get vaccinated.
Yes, sir.